Driver Barry Goodwin says his youthful fares asked if he took bank card. When he refused, he was assaulted.
And the one in the back grabbed a handful of me hair, pulled me head back and put a knife to the side of me throat.
After forcing the driver from his vehicle, the pair drove just 500 metres down a dirt road at Jules Crossing and dumped the car in bush. Using a local resident's phone, the driver was able to alert other taxis and police, who swarmed onto the area in minutes. With help from the Westpac helicopter, the two youngsters, who were believed to be from a children's refuge, were sighted in wetlands near where the car was dumped. After a short chase, they were taken into custody. The taxi was retrieved undamaged. The attack follows a similar knife-point assault of a taxi driver in Gateshead 3 months ago. On that occasion, the car was stolen and dumped at Dudley. 2 men involved in that incident are still being sought. Peter Ryan, NBN News. There haven't been trains on the Toronto to Fassifern line for more than 5 months. City Rail closed the tracks as a cost-cutting measure. Cleaning up garbage in the area, a local residents group has called for a replacement form of transport: bicycles, on what they call a Greenway concept.
Greenway is an American concept where disused rail lines are rejuvenated to form a cycleway come walkway with various shrub planting and etc. involved.
A Greenway steering committee has called for government and private support to build a 6-kilometre track. If rail authorities approve of the scheme, it's expected to cost in excess of $500,000. City Hall was ringing to the sounds of Dixieland with just some of the 200 jazz musicians in Newcastle for the weekend. The festival began 3 years ago with the bicentennial and was such a success it became an annual event. This year, cornet player Bob Bernard features. He'll be performing tomorrow in the main concert hall.
The December earthquake forced many church congregations from their usual place of worship. Some services were held under the trees in National Park. Adamstown Uniting Church was also badly damaged. Its bell tower was almost destroyed. Scaffolding, though, has now disappeared. Its doors are open again, and this was the first service in the church since the quake. The occasion was marked with colour and music. The repair bill is estimated at $500,000, but the church is counting its blessings. Not one of the intricate stained glass windows was broken. Damage to those could have doubled the cost of restoration. According to the Reverend Janice Huggett, there is a positive side to the disruption caused by the quake.
I think the congregation has actually become closer together as we were forced to worship in smaller circumstances, and I suppose in the sense of coming together through adversity, as I think has been the experience throughout the city. So in some ways it has been a blessing to go through this time together and to see each other through it.
The congregation was doubled in numbers for the Welcome Back celebration. When clubs have names like Gladiators, Life and Death, Nomads and the Hogs, their lives and loves seem like a world away from the mainstream. But the members of those groups have one thing in common, a love of Harley Davidsons. And at the Norm Fraser Harley Davidson show, it was easy to see why it's a love that afflicts so many. Harleys are, to those in the know, almost a piece of art. From their ape-hanger handlebars to their customised paint jobs, they combine nostalgia, precision and speed. And contrary to popular belief, bikers are not always bearded and leather-clad. Ray Northey has been riding them for 46 years, and to his mind, there is only one way to go.
But there really is only one motorcycle, and that's a Harley Davidson.
So where's your leather jacket?
In the sidecar.
If Ray did want to go all the way, there was on-the-spot tattooing and plenty of examples for those needing inspiration. The success of the show surprised the organisers, with a constant flow of interested people checking out the antique machines and the latest in high-tech mechanics. Curiosity got the better of some onlookers, and this one in particular agreed that the only thing better than the look of a Harley is to ride on one.
This is Alison Peters taking her life in her hands for NBN News.
Cessnock's Chris Watson brought up a personal milestone at the New South Wales Motorbike Track Championships when he clinched his 50th state title. While winning the 500cc crown, Chris also wrapped up the national championship for an incredible 18th time, and now must surely rank as one of the great track riders in the history of the sport. It was a good weekend for locals, with Brendan Dipper from the Raymond Terrace Club picking up the 250cc title, his first ever championship win. Grant Bond and Warwick Penfold from Cessnock won the 1000cc sidecar title, and Jeff Lawrence and Darryl Hall from Raymond Terrace blitzed the opposition to win the 500cc sidecar crown. An international field of riders gathered at Awabba for the Lake Macquarie Motocross Classic, and the action was fast and spectacular. Most interest centred on the Class A 125 and 250cc races, which featured Eddie Warren, Lyndon Heffernan and Phil Robinson. But a rider from Wollongong tipped them all out. Kimaz Kanasi was on the top of his form to win both the 125 and 250cc races. Heffernan had a second and a third, and Robinson from Orange also had a second and a third. Organisers were ecstatic with the roll-up of competitors and the way in which the meeting was run.
A meeting at Broadmeadow on Wednesday of more than 2,000 union members overwhelmingly condemned the new industrial relations legislation and called on the Democrats and independents who hold the balance of power in the upper house to defeat the bill. The Trades Hall Council will send a delegation to Sydney to present a number of petitions to the Legislative Council, voicing Newcastle's opposition to the bill.
It's important that this legislation be defeated in its current form, as it has severe ramifications for all of the workforce in New South Wales.
At last week's meeting, it was also decided to ask the State Labor Council to organise a mass rally and a statewide strike on the day the legislation goes before Parliament. A meeting of the Council on Thursday will determine the likelihood of industrial action, although at this stage it's not known when the bill will be presented to the Legislative Council. The Newcastle Trades Hall Council will meet later this week to decide future local action. It remains confident, though, the legislation will be defeated.
We've got to win, whether we win in this current session of Parliament or whether we win by ensuring the election of a Carr Labor government that will repeal this legislation into the future. This legislation has got to be defeated.
This is how students like Jeffrey Morris get around Waratah High. The one major obstacle barring him from easy access to the school's library and computer lab on the top floor was stairs. The school started a program to integrate disabled students at the beginning of this year. The commissioning of a $42,000 Garaventa stair climbing machine by Education Minister Virginia Chadwick will bring the first 5 of those students within easy reach to the rest of the school. The Minister test drove the new lift. While it isn't quick, it is in the fast company of similar lifts in Buckingham Palace, the White House and our own Parliament House. The Garaventa runs on a 240-volt electric motor geared to a continuous cable through a cog drive. Most of the students need help to board the platform, but to them it makes a world of difference.
I can go all around school. I can visit my friends. And it's real great.
The school's principal welcomes the lift.
As a region, Hunter region now is in the position to be able to offer equality for any student who may wish to, or who is unfortunately disabled in any way, be it from accident or sickness. They could certainly apply to this school and receive the full curriculum.
That's great, yeah. I love this school.
While Edith Ming is to spend the coming days speaking on social issues concerning the people of the Hunter, on August 22nd she'll take up a cause that concerns the world when she leaves for South Africa and a meeting with President F.W. de Klerk.
Our goal, our achievement will be to let Mr. de Klerk know that although we are happy with the stance which he is taking and with the strides that have already been made, that there is more beyond, that we cannot be satisfied until all people have a right to equal freedom.
But while Mrs. Ming admits she would like to see reform happening a little faster in South Africa, she says the release of Nelson Mandela has done a lot for the black cause.
I think Mr. Mandela has been a beacon light of hope to many people. His release from jail after 27 years and the strength that he brings to many situations with his wealth of knowledge and his expertise in speaking to issues that really count, I think it has helped a lot.
No mail went into or out of the Newcastle Post Office from the Broadmeadow Mail Sorting Centre since Thursday, and customer demand was reduced to just a trickle. The Chamber of Commerce described the situation as quite disruptive and the effect widespread, with businesses having to take franked mail to Broadmeadow and doing without incoming mail altogether. The dispute centres on the security arrangements in place for the transportation of money through the system. And with such a delicate subject, it's no wonder Australia Post is reticent.
It's the question of the security of those dispatches, and for obvious reasons I don't want to go into a great deal of depth about the detail for security reasons.
Mail was still being accepted at the Newcastle office, but that was as far as it got, with 50 bags stockpiled since Thursday. Normally, late afternoon would see dozens of customers bringing mail to the bulk posting area and 2 staff working flat out to handle it all. But today, it is virtually deserted. And while the issue which is at the core of the dispute is a national one, the effect on mail is purely local.
Bans on certain work above a certain level were placed by the union last week, and my staff refused to implement those bans because they were concerned about the future of their work. And following from that, the union has placed a black ban on this office.
But it was at the Broadmeadow Mail Centre where the true extent of the disruption became evident. 400 bags, an estimated 120,000 articles awaiting delivery. Mail for Newcastle was still being sorted, but getting no further than the truck loading bay. The talks in Sydney resolved the issue tonight, and the backlog could be cleared in half an hour, with most, if not all, mail delivered tomorrow.
Tonight, the start of an intense campaign to overthrow the Broncos on their home track, a formidable task for the Knights, who are locked in a struggle with Manly for a place in this year's Winfield Cup semi-finals. On Friday night, the Knights turned in a brilliant second-half performance to all but get the 2 points, with McCormick and then Michael Hagan giving them the lead.
Hagan, he gets it. They waited till the 6th.
But King Sterling robbed the Knights of a point so vital to them. Canberra, Brisbane and Penrith lead the competition on 29 points and are battling for the minor premiership and the double chance going into the semis. But the pack's not far behind and anything is possible, with the Knights having the hardest run home. A victory against Brisbane essential. Good news tonight though, big front rower Mark Sargent is back on the track and is keen to take his place in the team on Friday night. At this early stage, it looks like the Knights will be close to full strength to take on a depleted Broncos outfit due to the test.
It was a terse Neil Baker who arrived at the International Sports Centre tonight to face charges of attacking the head of an opponent and swearing at the referee. The charges stemmed from this incident during a fiery clash with Waratah, during which 5 players were sin-binned and Baker was sent off. The 16-8 loss sent the Rosellas crashing out of the Newcastle competition, and Baker made no secret of the fact he would be retiring if suspended tonight. As it was, the judiciary deliberated for just over an hour before finding Baker guilty on both counts, but fining him just $50. Still, he was far from pleased with the verdict.
No, I'm very disappointed actually. I really feel that I'm innocent, and that's the way I'm going to stick by. I'm sticking by the word that I said, and I really feel that I'm innocent.
Have you been victimised?
I don't know as far as saying that, but I just feel, as I said, as far as I'm concerned, I'm innocent.
Baker says he'll now reconsider his rugby league future. He has 7 days in which to appeal against the decision. Referee Mick Benson refused to comment on the outcome of the hearing or his chances of controlling next week's grand final. Bruce Mackenzie for Newsnight.
United States military operations in Saudi Arabia and the Persian Gulf region are costing the U.S. government an extra $20 million a day. Example, it costs $85,000 to fly one military transport plane round trip to Saudi Arabia. To transport just one division takes 1,100 flights. Total cost, $85 million. If the United States were to put 100,000 men and women into the buildup for 6 months, the cost could rise beyond $25 million a day. According to one estimate, that would mean more than $4.5 billion.
Once you get the people there, then there's all the additional cost of the munitions and the fuel and the medical care and the transportation to sustain them and bring spare parts and so on.
To get the money, the Pentagon has already begun asking military commanders to hold on to funds they haven't spent yet. It is also looking for savings in maintenance and in training operations for units that are not going to the Middle East. Private analysts believe that the Middle East operation will make it impossible for Congress to cut the defense budget as deeply as planned, perhaps $6 billion less than expected. The president said today he still wants to cut the deficit by $50 billion this year, but one defense analyst said that with all the new costs, it probably can't be cut by more than $30 billion. John Martin, ABC News, Washington.
The venue was the Hunter Environmental Institute meeting at Maitland. Mr Hawke said several new mining ventures or extensions to existing developments have been proposed, with some already approved. But he said the industry is not looking at a return to the heady days of the early 80s.
The coal industry has a very tough slog to get export markets, but we believe that given a reasonable break on the world markets, the coal industry will grow substantially in the Hunter Valley and remain quite stable in the Newcastle area.
Mr Hawke put that growth at 66% of the current level by the turn of the century, from 30 megatons a year now to the port's loading capacity of 50 megatons a year. But what about after that?
Beyond the year 2000, it's really not much point in forecasting beyond that because the scenarios will change so much probably in the meantime.
Known as Steve to her friends, she vowed at her last birthday party that she'd be around again this year for her 104th. Today the cards poured in and they were mostly handmade. It's hard to buy a 104th birthday card off the shelf. One from a special admirer made her day. True to a belief of staying young at heart, Elizabeth sat on Santa's knee last Christmas. A love of knitting is second only to song, and family, friends and staff of the Cara nursing home treated her to a now familiar tune. And with that, Mrs. Stevens summoned her breath and a little help from her friends for that one extra candle. If there was a birthday wish behind the cake cutting, it could have been that all her friends will come to a party next year. Elizabeth Stephen is determined she'll make 105.
You're telling me? Bright and usual.
We just clamp it like that and then we just have it straight on.